Damn it.
What you think about when you're born into a fire. Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. Our brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway.
Thank you for your subscription. I suppose. Thinking about quitting this and becoming a Civil War reenactor.
And we feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake
I think I'd be good at Civil War reenactments. Maybe. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows?
Hey daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Will Bird. This is the Cold Beer Confessional. Thank you for joining us. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome. Thank you for being here, I guess. Consider supporting the show. I've got a $5,000 unexpected car bill. So if you want to support the show, do that at coldbeer.fund. Be greatly appreciated. Thank you, guys. I guess the first thing is this part. Trump is literally just selling pardons. Now, I can't prove it. But it seems like he's just literally selling pardons. The guy who defrauded people of $34 billion with a B. $34 billion. By doing stuff like, so supposedly he was inventing an electric / hydrogen / whatever truck, like a semi truck. And so I even shared some of their marketing information, okay? Because I thought it was cool that, there's so much pollution comes from semis, but we have to have them. There's no shutting them down, right? We don't have railroads that go everywhere. There's not a better solution. Some of their marketing material where they would show trucks driving, they were literally towing them up to speed because there was no engine in them and claiming that they were there under their own power. One of the stories was that they took their electric truck, which didn't even have a motor in it, and right before they were going to shoot a new commercial, they took a stencil out and put H2 on it to make it hydrogen. And it was the same fucking truck, even though they were presenting as two different. One was electric, one was hydrogen. Like the whole thing. Hold on, let's see. I know I've watched a good documentary on this before. Let's see if we can find it without getting rid of too much shit. All right, here we go. I just started over. This is from Cold Fusion with 5 million subscribers. If you haven't seen it, go check out the channel.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion, where I cover anything in science, technology, business, or history. In front of an enthusiastic audience, a 35-year-old Trevor Milton stands on stage proudly proclaiming his latest achievement.
Trevor Milton, he'll be important later. And by the way, Trump's claim when they're like, why did you pardon him? He's like, oh, he was only prosecuted because he's a Trump supporter. I don't think he's ever said anything pro-Trump. He wasn't known for that. He was known for building this truck brand like Edison's trying to do. And I really support Edison. And it would really fucking piss me off if it came out that they were lying to people and faking shit. It had nothing to do with Trump.
The year was 2016, and the charismatic, energetic Trevor seems like he's just about to change the world. Behind him was his tool to do just that. It was a truck running.
He even used to be at odds with Elon because Tesla, Heavy D, I'm pretty sure he was an early investor. Tesla wants to build a truck, right? Or is building a truck, has a truck, whatever. And they used to call each other out on social media all the time.
Running on revolutionary hydrogen technology. It could save both money and the environment. This truck, called the Nikola One, was going to disrupt the $1 trillion trucking industry.
See the H2 painted on it? They never had a working hydrogen engine.
and would go on to make Trevor a multi-billionaire. Bosch, General Motors, and other big names all wanted to work with Trevor and his revolutionary company that would later be worth $34 billion.
$34 billion worth of truck that didn't really exist.
The only problem was that none of this was real.
And again, they were making videos of this truck, and they would just have it like on a downhill to where it was just rolling. It was never under its own power. Or they would tow it into frame, drop the tow rope, and then video it like it was driving around.
The vehicle behind him was simply a shell that couldn't even drive itself, and none of the technology that he talked about even existed.
A shell that couldn't even drive itself on the showroom, not pulling 80,000 pounds, not pulling a semi-load, or even a reduced load. Let's say it can only pull half, but it does it super efficiently. Let's say it couldn't even pull itself into the showroom.
But this would only be the beginning of the lies. So how was everyone fooled? And how could a man look so confident about his achievements while knowing that none of what he was saying was real?
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
Today, it seems like the world of startups is having its fair share of charismatic swindlers, from Theranos to Wirecard.
If you don't know, the reason we're covering this is because this guy just got pardoned for Trump. By Trump. And he got pardoned by Trump. He's already been convicted. He was supposed to pay like $600 million back in restitution. He was probably going to go to jail for a while. Him and his wife donated $1.8 million to Trump's campaign through a PAC. And I guess Pam Bondi, was it her brother? Is that what people were saying? Or her brother-in-law? Was his defense lawyer. That's insane. That's crazy.
The game plan is simple. Pretend that you have a revolutionary technology or business plan. Gain billions in investment.
Like, I understand, like, sometimes there's use for a pardon, and sometimes there's even, like, partisan arguments to be made and shit like that. Like, happened to be A.G. Pam Bondi's brother. His attorney is the Attorney General's brother. This is just setting the example that crime is no longer illegal if you know the right people. We all kind of, there's probably a lot of people believe this already, that if you know the right people, have the right amount of money, you're not going to get in the same trouble someone else will. But it was like a behind the scenes thing, right? Like if you're some white rich kid who rapes a girl, but you're also on a scholarship for a swim team at a private academy, you're probably not getting in the same trouble that someone else is. But this is just out in the open. Like, he paid $1.8 million in campaign donations. He's never mentioned Trump before, ever. His sister becomes the attorney general, or his lawyer's sister becomes the attorney general. And then Trump comes out and says, oh, they only prosecuted him because he liked a guy named Trump. He was one of the first people to like a guy named Trump, and that's the only reason he was prosecuted. No. He defrauded the world publicly.
Investment. And finally, fake it until you can cash out with billions. In the case of Nikola Motors, you might just end up with a $34 billion company. To understand how we got here, we have to go back. Our story starts...
Again, it is getting... You might as well just become a grifter and donate to the right people.
In Utah with Trevor Milton. Trevor was born in 1982 and had a rough upbringing. His mother died of cancer when he was just 14 years of age, and he would witness her coughing up blood in her latter days. Trevor and his 4 siblings had to learn how to survive with a bedridden mother and a father who worked 4 hours away. It could be said that these experiences made Trevor driven. He wanted to make something of himself. Milton and his father were close. Many years later, they would even go into business together, but that comes later in the story. After high school, Milton took a Mormon missionary trip to the favelas in Brazil. The experience got him thinking about wider problems, particularly environmental ones. He would return back to Utah in 2003 and would attend the Utah Valley State College to study sales and marketing, but he would drop out after just 1 semester. He had his eyes on bigger things. He wanted to start his own company, and so he did. His first company dealt with security alarm sales, and Trevor would sell off the company for $300,000. But in this deal, there were already signs of trouble. According to the buyer of Milton's company, he overpromised the potential of the business, resulting in a loss for the buyer. Milton also allegedly cheated his business partner.
Which is also illegal. You can't, like, cook the books. Well, I guess it could be illegal, right? You can show somebody your actual numbers and say, but look, I didn't go that hard. Marketing's wide open. If you want to do this or do that, you could probably triple those numbers. You could do that casually and say that. The person should not believe you. They should just go off your profit and loss statements. But if he's cooking the books, that's obviously illegal.
Out of $50,000 during the sale. In 2009, he would move into the online ads business with a website that sold used cars. Trevor would then move on from selling used cars to building vehicle power plants. And if you think this was a bit of a leap, it was. He had no formal training in the industry. Undeterred though, this effort would come in the form of dehybrid. The plan was to transform existing diesel engines to run on compressed natural gas. Now, this idea was solid. Natural gas has less emissions, lower maintenance costs, and is overall safer. The execution of his plan, however, was a disaster. As mentioned, Trevor had no formal engineering experience, but after some good marketing, he managed to convince the company Swift Transportation to invest $2 million. In the deal, 10 trucks would be converted as a trial run, then later, 800 trucks. But as it turned out, Trevor wasn't pulling his weight in the deal. A 2012 lawsuit revealed that only 5 trucks had been delivered. In addition, the engines had major problems and didn't do at all what they claimed. And to top it off,
Oh, really? Under-delivered and it's riddled with problems. Wow.
part of that $2 million was squandered on personal living. Milton was simultaneously bleeding through investor money and needed more. In 2012, he tried to find another investor in Utah to buy out the company, but they smelt a rat and backed out of the agreement. To run away from all of his legal problems, Trevor started a new company with his father. It was called dHybrid Systems. dHybrid Systems and dHybrid were completely different companies, and the similarities in their names was intentional. Trevor and his father now had complete ownership and would work on the same technology, but now without the legal problems. This move left the whole dHybrid partners with nothing. As outlandish as this was, the plan worked, and a new company, Worthington Industries, paid $16 million for their company. The only problem was that the company was in shambles. In private conversations, Trevor admitted that parts of the engine systems were falling off the trucks, something he stated was potentially fatal. At the end of the day,
Part of the engine systems was falling off the truck, and it could be potentially fatal. Small problem. We can work around that.
all that mattered for Trevor is that the deal was paid out for him and his father.
I freaking helped design and develop and fix all these repairs that Worthington didn't know about. These backup cab units were actually falling off of the trash trucks.
Falling off the trash
Like breaking off. They were shearing the damn freaking frames and then coming off. Like nearly freaking causing deaths and stuff.
In 2014, Trevor founded what would become Nikola Motors. Meanwhile, Worthington was losing millions. The faulty engines that dHybrid had given them was causing nothing but problems. Milton was making money while the companies that he sold off were money pits. Milton would continue to convince people that he had valuable technology. On May 9th, 2016,
There it is. A big fake truck with some fancy fucking aerodynamic bullshit. All fake.
Nikola Motors announced the Nikola One, a semi-truck that would revolutionize the transport industry. It could travel 1,000 miles without stopping.
And I guess people probably should have questioned it more. I didn't, right? If this technology is available and just sitting there, like we know that trucks will run off fucking hydrogen. We know about electric motors. We know about capacity. That's why Edison is doing it different, right? They have the inefficiency. Diesel motors are a lot more efficient when they're at their prime, like RPM range. So what makes diesel motors very inefficient is when you're going through all these gears, right? You're geared too high, geared too low. The engine's revving too high or too low. So Edison puts a generator on the back of the truck or the front of the truck, and they run it at its peak performing numbers, right? Get the emissions down as low as possible. Use that generator to charge the batteries, and then electric motors drive the truck. It's much more efficient. It's the same way that like locomotives work. So a locomotive, an engine on a train, is just a big generator with electric motors. There's a huge battery bank. The entire diesel engine is just to produce electricity. The diesel engine does not move it at all. Electric traction motors do. So the claims that this guy was making were just 10, 20, 100 times better than what any other country could even or any other company could even perceive. So people should have probably known, like, hey, sounds too good to be true, but I guess they didn't.
It only took 15 minutes of downtime to refill and do another 1,000 miles. The global trucking market is worth over $1 trillion, so a disruptive technology like this could be a game changer, if someone could make it work, that is. In a bizarre twist, allegedly, Nikola bought the design from a man in Croatia for a few $1,000s, but this didn't stop the company from suing Tesla for $2 billion, claiming that Tesla had stolen their design.
Sued Tesla over their Cybertruck, whatever they called it.
Unaware of Milton's past, the world was abuzz with the news of the revolutionary truck. So how were they going to do this exactly? Well,
no one knew about his past. Everybody was just going off his marketing and his bullshit. And he had investors. Usually, like investors, if you got all these people investing in it, they can smell a fraud, right? I guess not.
With the same technology that had been a complete failure in the dehybrid companies, of course, compressed natural gas technology. The truck was to be revealed in a live event in December of 2016, a very tight deadline. Could Nikola pull it off? They must
He was one of the first guys that supported Trump.
have thought that because they began to take pre-orders. They stated that the Nikola 1 was engineered, developed, and is finalizing assembly. But what did they actually have? By August of 2016, the Nikola 1 was just a frame on wheels. The body hadn't even arrived yet. There were no production
There wasn't even a body for it. It was a frame on wheels.
facilities either, and according to a source familiar with the project, the workers were scrambling to the hardware store to pick up basic
All these lines are just airlines for brakes, it looks like.
parts. Meanwhile, the Nikola Motor Company Twitter account was hyping up the event. They stressed that the truck would be
Functioning, fully built truck at the event. So design unveiling or a functional prototype. Functioning, fully built truck at the event.
fully functioning. Amidst all of this, at the beginning of August, while the truck was still a frame, the company abruptly announced that it had pivoted from compressed natural gas to hydrogen fuel cell technology.
So they're literally like months away from debuting their truck. That they've said it's always compressed natural gas, and then suddenly they're like, oh no, it's hydrogen fuel cells. We just forgot to tell you.
The hydrogen fuel cell announcement was even a shock to those within the company. In mid-November, as the show was drawing closer,
People working in the company were like, what? Hydrogen? What? Why did he say it was hydrogen? It's compressed natural gas, right? They had no idea.
the team was hard at work slapping the truck together. There were no electric motor cores or gears, only axles in an empty shell. The body
It didn't even have gearing. Even if you'd have took a diesel engine and planted it in that motherfucker, it wouldn't have moved. It was empty axles.
finally did arrive in late November, roughly a week before the show. H2, the chemical formula for hydrogen, was decaled proudly on the side of the truck, even though there was no such technology inside.
Zero emission hydrogen electric.
So I can understand that building a prototype can be less than elegant, but to call this fully
Nikola founder Trevor Milton overstated the functionality of the Nikola 1 prototype, report says. The vehicle shown to the public in 2016 lacked a drivetrain components, among other things, according to a recent report.
functioning was at the very least a bit misleading, a fact
This guy's such a piece of shit, dude. I can't believe Trump is just pardoning anybody that'll donate to him.
that would later come back to haunt Nikola. But more on this later in the episode. When the big day came, Trevor seemingly couldn't hold back his emotion when talking. Perhaps it was an appeal to one's emotional side to shut down rational thinking and skepticism. Bloomberg would later state that the statements made by Trevor had alarmed some people familiar with the truck's capability. They told Bloomberg that the truck was inoperable and had missing key components to power itself. The whole truck was powered by a mains power cord that was connected under the stage. Trevor would put an emphasis on the touchscreens within the cabin.
They ran a power cord under the stage so this shit lit up. So the lights worked. So the computer system you could scroll through. They ran a power cord under the stage and hooked it up.
Seemingly the only part of the truck that actually functioned.
There are prototypes that do this, right? If you go to like a trade show, but they'll tell you, right? Like, this is a shell. This is a prototype. We don't know if this is the way it's going to be forever, but it is powered here by the shore power is what they usually call it. Not Trevor.
The whole thing was essentially a big shiny decoration.
So how long have you been working on this? Because this is a fully functioning truck right here that we're sitting in. So how long have you guys been working on this?
Years in secrecy. It's been very hard. Some of the people found out about us over the last 4 or 5 months as we announced some of the lead up to this big event. But it took years and years to get here. This isn't just a pusher like a lot of vehicles that they unveil are just vehicles that don't actually function. This is a fully functioning vehicle, which is really incredible. You can go through. You can
Multiple times, fully functioning vehicle.
Functional or not, Trevor had smoothly talked his way to entrepreneurial fame. The internet was ablaze with buzz, and from there were off.
I remember sharing this. Like, I legit shared this. I think when I first met Sage online, I think I even argued about this one day before I even knew it was a fraud.
To the races. Following the event, in January of 2017, the company raised capital as part of its Series A round. Nikola also signed with Bosch, as well as fuel cell and hydrogen partners. The plan may have been to leverage existing suppliers to deliver on their promises. But as time passed and the hype from the December 2016 show faded, people that were following closely began talking about the company, stating that Nikola needed to show some updates on their truck, the Nikola 1. So, in early 2018, a video of the Nikola 1 was produced.
These are so fucking deceitful, dude. He sets in this video, he gets in the cab, acts like he starts it, right? He pushes a button or whatever. They were towing these vehicles. and using downhill runs. It wasn't even under its own power.
Company stating that Nikola.
It was just coasting.
But as time passed and the hype from the December
Watch him get in it.
faded, people that were following closely began talking about the company, stating that Nikola needed to show some updates on their truck.
Sat down and turned it on.
So, in early 2018,
Now look, it's going down the road with a trailer.
a video of the Nikola 1 was produced to dispel the rumors that it wasn't a functioning truck. The video was called Nikola 1 in Motion, and the video
In motion.
seemingly worked. Even Arizona Governor Doug Ducey was impressed. He agreed to host the Nikola manufacturing headquarters in his state and even played the video during his announcement. And once again,
Behold, the Nikola 1 in motion. Pre-production units to hit fleets in 2019 for testing. The Nikola hydrogen electric trucks will take on any semi-truck and outperform them in every category. Weight, acceleration, stopping, safety, and features, all with 500 to 1,000-mile range before refueling.
there was now a tremendous amount of buzz and excitement. A lot of people were looking forward to the pre-production units to be released the following year, but this was never to be. It seems that Trevor was up to his old tricks again. He never really had any plans to finish developing the Nikola 1 truck. He was only interested in one thing: raising more money. After the 2016 announcement, to the shock of all of those involved in the Nikola 1 project, the truck's development was abandoned. But no.
You guys get that damn truck running yet? I want to see it. We haven't touched a truck since the show. Holy shit. You didn't hear that from me. That's amazing, though. Almost a year. Don't investors ever ask to see it run? I'm sure they do. I can't imagine how much work it would take to get that to run.
Nobody outside the company knew this. The promotional Nikola 1 video.
Yeah, the truck commercial was done blank. They were planning it for blank. And I asked Kevin how it was going to work, and he said they would tow it to the top of a super low-grade hill and let it roll.
Proved to be a sham itself. According to a former employee who spoke with the Nikola chief engineer, Kevin Link, the video was simply the result of Nikola towing the truck to the top of the hill and letting it roll back down. Unsurprisingly, those who worked on the video had to sign NDAs. By September of 2019, Trevor Milton owned 40% of the company.
Is now a billionaire thanks to hydrogen truck startups fundraising drive. Made himself from nothing to a billionaire.
And by age 37, he was now a billionaire. So, the company was going to use compressed natural gas technology and then pivoted towards hydrogen technology. They were going to use hydrogen as a kind of fuel to power an electric motor.
And why the difference? Well, hydrogen goes further than a battery electric truck does, and it's a lot lighter to operate. So ultimately, it's just a lot of like juggling these different things, but we're pretty close. We just ordered the largest order ever of electrolyzers that I know of. It was an order yesterday of over $30 million to produce over 40,000 kilograms of hydrogen. We just made that order yesterday from Nell out of Norway. So we're already prepping our first 5 stations to be up and running. We're breaking ground. We should be breaking ground this year on these stations.
Okay. As good as this sounds, hydrogen is expensive and requires a lot of engineering to store and transport safely. The plan for Nikola Motors was to have 700 hydrogen stations around North America and 70 in Europe within the next decade. Nikola planned to make its own hydrogen by using energy from solar and renewable sources. This all sounds amazing, but when you look into the details of who was spearheading a lot of the key technology aspects, things get a little suspect. Nikola's director of hydrogen production is none other than Trevor Milton's brother. Previously to joining Nikola, his work consisted of pouring concrete and building a barn as a subcontractor. Not exactly the experience needed. According to those familiar with the matter, Travis really didn't do much at the company. He was kept around to do a few odd jobs, hold a rope here, fetch those
He was the maintenance guy.
tools, and that kind of thing. Trevor had given Travis, along with other family members, Nikola Motors stock worth over $110 million.
I think that Pam Bondi came and said, hey, my brother's representing this case. He's a big Trump supporter. And I think they donated like $1.8 million to your PAC. And he's like, oh, yeah, give me the name. That's all it takes, right? That's all it takes to have Trump's ear. Tell them that they're a supporter. They love you. They're probably one of your first supporters. Oh, and they donated a bunch of money.
Nikola's head of infrastructure development in charge of building.
Wait till you see how Trump talks about it. He has no idea what any of it's about. He's like, I heard they only prosecuted him for loving one man, and that man was named Trump. Like, what?
Putting out those 700 plus hydrogen station networks was previously a general manager of a golf club in Idaho. Again, not exactly the experience one would expect for the job. As pointed out by Kathy Wood, the CEO of ARK Invest, hydrogen on average costs 3 times as much as electric. Trevor needed a way to fix this. In an interview, Trevor claimed that Nikola produces hydrogen for under $3 a kilogram, 81% cheaper than the rest of the world, representing a major
81% cheaper to produce hydrogen. But he was just making that up.
breakthrough.
We're really an energy technology company. We sell the energy to consumers, not consumers, but businesses that are buying the trucks. That's where the money is. Obviously, we want to reduce the cost of our truck, but we're now cheaper to drive than a diesel is per mile, and we make 5 times the revenue of our competitors. So it's awesome. I mean, that's why Niko's really cracked the chicken and the egg. The generation that's investing now, they care more about the environmental impact of what you're doing than they do like, oh, well, you're 6 months or 8 months from revenue. They don't care. They're like, you know what? You're changing the world. You're going to reduce emissions more than anyone else. We're invested into you.
When pressed, Trevor later acknowledged that Nikola produces no hydrogen at all. all. But this didn't stop BP, later pledging to join Nikola to build out their hydrogen fuel network. It really is amazing when you think about it. Trevor had perfected a devious game.
What are you innovating if all you do is outsourcing? All the technology, software, controls, e-axle, inverters, etc., we do internally. We joint venture with those that know the supply chain and manufacturing like Iveco. We outsource autonomy. We outsource hardware production. We don't make the cells. We make the entire pack like the top guys do. We do have an OEM making our truck, but all internals are Nikola's IP. Batteries, inverters, software, OTA, infotainment, controls, etc. We own all of it in-house, just not the plant to build the truck.
He would act as a...
By the way, if you want an actual company that's going to be pretty disruptive to trucking, it is Edison. Edison Motors, 100%. They're literally starting a so far what they've been doing is converting their trucks. They're literally breaking ground on a factory to start building their own trucks.
A spokesperson for Nikola and make up lofty claims to gain partners. Essentially, Trevor would use these claims to get investors and more partners, and then use the brand recognition of those partners to get even more investors. Ultimately, all of this didn't matter though, because the next piece of technology that Trevor was going to announce was going to change the world.
Big update coming next week about 2020. Wow, get ready. Nikola will change the world as we know it, even bigger than Nikola World 2019, and that was epic.
In late October 2019, Trevor began teasing on Twitter that Nikola was going to change the world with an upcoming announcement.
Tomorrow it all changes. I finally get to talk about it. The news everyone has been waiting for. Diesel trucks are obsolete for good. We solved what no one else could. It's time for other OEMs to stop producing diesels immediately. See press tomorrow. Well, obviously this didn't come true, right? A preview within the press release tomorrow. Due to the impact that this technology will have on society and emissions, Nikola has taken an unprecedented position to share the IP with all other OEMs, even competitors, that contribute to the Nikola IP license and consortium. We're never going to have diesels again, guys.
That was bigger than anything.
Shut it down.
Past. While he was tweeting up a storm, in November of 2019, Milton cashed out $70 million and bought the most expensive house in Utah, a $33 million mansion on a 2,600-acre ranch. He told the Wall Street Journal that this place,
a $33 million mansion, while he's lying to everybody around him.
Quote,
Trump pardoned this motherfucker, dude. Like, I get it. It's not like a violent crime, but holy fuck. How many more people that are close to Trump, that talk to Trump, are like, yeah, I can scam the fuck out of anybody I want?
For my family, friends, and others to enjoy. On November 18, 2019, Nikola began negotiations to go public. The very next day, the company announced that it had solved one of the greatest challenges facing sustainable energy, a high-density battery. This new prototype battery would provide 4 times the energy density of lithium-ion and could power a Tesla Model S for over 600 miles. On Twitter, Trevor claimed that he had seen this technology perform with his own eyes and promised a major demonstration.
Yeah, it's real. I've seen it with my own eyes and watched it. You're talking 600-plus mile range in a Model 3 Tesla. You're talking 50% less cost than lithium-ion. You're talking mass adoption of zero-emission vehicles. Could be worth hundreds of billions if owned by one company, but we decided to share it with the competition for the greater good. Is it actually real, though? Or is it just another jerk-off encouragement? Scientific-style breakthrough.
Riding high off the announcement, Nikola Motors began to receive serious attention, and Anheuser-Busch was first to jump on board, placing a pre-order for 800 trucks. Trevor estimated that the value of this new technology was to be worth hundreds of billions. The thing was, Nikola had no patent engineers, chemists, or research papers published. The truth was, Nikola had acquired the battery maker ZapGo for $56 million.
Jerk-off instructions, sorry.
As it turned out, ZapGo's technology was vaporware. It was a scam. It didn't exist. And so
it didn't exist. It didn't exist.
There it was. Nikola, who had misled so many, had been misled themselves. Interestingly, ZapGo was headed by Charles Resnick, a shady character who had just scammed NASA a few months before the Nikola deal. Charles used the money from NASA to hire numerous adult workers, certainly not a business expense.
Former ISS executive charged with allegedly expensing sex workers to NASA.
Charles would plead guilty in January of 2020, but once again, all of this didn't matter to Trevor. He was still...
It has a battery as well, so you can go 300 miles on battery alone, then kick in hydrogen when towing when battery doesn't do so well. What happened to your game-changing battery technology that you announced to unveil just 3 months ago? Won't make hydrogen in this truck redundant? Once we release the cell tech and it's ready for production, It'll just add more range and more tech ahead of the competition. You don't stop pushing just because you're waiting for a product releases.
On Twitter, touting the non-existent battery technology.
What a slimy piece of shit, dude. And the fact that these people keep getting away with, like Phil, right? How the fuck can you go day in and day out, like being okay with like fucking slaving away 60, 70, 80 hours a week? And people like this are getting away with shit. Phil is buying fucking Rolls Royces and mansions.
With nothing more than the promise of a revolutionary truck that rolled down a hill and a game-changing battery technology that was purchased from a company that was a scam.
Oh, you're talking about Edison? Edison's Canadian, but I wasn't keeping up with chat. I didn't know what you meant.
Nikola went public on June 4th, 2020. They did so through a technique called a reverse merger. The thing is, with reverse mergers, you don't have to disclose all the intricate details of your company, something that a regular IPO would require. This should have raised some red flags for investors if they knew more about the history of Nikola. But alas, investors were euphoric and Nikola shares spiked. Within 1 week of going public, the market value of Nikola surged past that of Ford, over $30 billion.
At one time, this company, without a single running vehicle, it's automotive manufacturing company that doesn't have a single running vehicle, had a larger market cap than Ford. Than Ford Motors. That's insane.
To put things into perspective, Ford sold 5.5 million vehicles in 2019 with a revenue of $155 billion and had a market cap of around $28 billion. Nikola, on the other hand, sold nothing and was valued at $30 billion, making it the world's biggest truck maker without selling a single truck. And with that, overnight, Trevor became a multi-billion.
The biggest auto manufacturer without ever selling a fucking single goddamn vehicle.
It was settled. The markets had spoken.
At least Elon came in and stole all the vehicle plans. The one vehicle he was actually there to work on, the Cybertruck, is a fucking piece of shit. It's like falling apart when people are driving out the interstate. Do you know every Cybertruck in the world has been recalled? Because the A-pillar, which like goes up beside your windshield, like when you're sitting in your car, it comes up beside you and then across the top, the A-pillar and that trim piece that goes all the way to the back just falls off while people are driving. Not to mention people keep breaking the frame in half.
He was the next Elon Musk. Things would soon change for Trevor though, but not before one last cash grab. On September 8th, 2020, Nikola Motors announced a $2 billion partnership with General Motors.
Now, through all of this, he's never said a word about Trump, by the way. You don't see like him getting involved in politics or saying Trump and this affected his... Never. He never talked about Trump.
Was going to take an 11% stake in the company and manufacture their electric pickup truck, the Nikola Badger. So question...
Again, they've never made a vehicle before, and GM wants to invest with them to make it like an S10, electric S10, call it the Badger.
Things would soon change for Trevor though, but not before one last cash grab. On September 8th, 2020, Nikola Motors announced a $2 billion partnership with General Motors. GM was going to take an 11% stake in the company and manufacture their electric pickup truck, the Nikola Badger.
Maybe it's like a Silverado. It looks a little bit bigger. It might be a full-size truck.
So questions have to be asked. Did General Motors do no research, or was something else at play here? Despite the chaos, Nikola was again accepting pre-orders for their Badger truck. To date, no one has ever seen a Nikola Badger.
They took pre-orders for a concept that has never been produced. This is concept art. There's never been one.
Only exist as a rendering as far as the public is concerned. Finally, after lying for years and roping in some of the biggest companies 2 days after the GM deal on September 10th, the short-selling investment firm Hindenburg Research released a scathing report calling Nikola Motors an...
So a short-selling research firm comes out and says, hey, we've talked to people involved in this. We've talked to people around it. We've done a full investigation. It's all bullshit.
Intricate fraud. The firm said it had gathered extensive evidence, including recorded phone calls, text messages, private emails.
They even had people in the factory taking pictures of shit. If you look right here, they've got like these concept models and stuff that was like released to the public. And they've got actual people in the company taking actual pictures. Like they had a hell of a review.
Phone calls, text messages, private emails, and behind-the-scenes photographs detailing.
It was a big deal. Like they were literally like you saw his post. He was saying like, every company in the world, stop making diesels. We've fixed this issue. You're never going to need a diesel engine again.
Dozens of false statements by Milton. They accused him of lying about Nikola's.
I found the videos of it driving before COVID, and I shared it before COVID happened. The fallout was probably peak COVID. Like him getting prosecuted and shit like that. Again, when I first started talking to Sage, which has been years ago on YouTube, I was like, well, what about the Nikola truck? You know, it's going to be blah, 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 whatever. And some of this stuff had come out. I just hadn't heard about it yet.
Technology. This was a bombshell report, and soon the gates were blown wide open.
We believe this is only the beginning of Nikola's unraveling. Nikola's almost no intellectual property products or revenue to fall back on. We think the company's key asset was its founder's ability to raise money through hype and then the Hindenburg saying outright lies.
Trevor Milton knew that this was the end, and he publicly promised a full rebuttal to all the damaging claims. But
it was a cool looking truck. I always like, my dad was a big Chevy guy. I like Chevrolets. I've owned about every truck you can imagine, but my last truck I loved to death. My last Duramax, but I got rid of it and to pay for some stuff for housing. But yeah, I like Chevrolets. I like the Badger name. I like that concept art. That was cool.
But instead, he deleted his social media accounts and disappeared.
Deleted his social media and just disappeared. Just stepped away and thought nothing's going to happen. They've exposed me. I bought the most expensive house in Utah. How would they ever find me?
Trevor Milton, the founder of electric truck company Nikola, is voluntarily stepping down as executive chairman and giving up his board seat. This move comes after short seller Hindenburg Research accused Milton of making false statements about Nikola's technology in order to try and grow and secure partnerships with automakers. Both the Justice Department and the SEC are investigating allegations. This
motherfucker even tried to sue Tesla for stealing his design that he bought from somebody overseas for $1,000.
Made by Hindenburg.
On the 21st of September, Trevor steps down from the chairman position, and former vice chairman of GM, Stefan Gursky, takes over. Nikola stock plunged by 40%, and negotiations between Nikola and other partners stalled. And finally,
I will be cheering from the sidelines with you, your greatest fan. In the last few weeks, shareholders and partners have rallied around Nikola and employees. I can't thank them enough for that. The company, your greatest fan. I want to thank the incredible people around the world that followed me and supported our cause to leave this earth a little better than we found it. You are 1.00784 in a million, and true champions. Will continue to spread love everywhere I go and hope you do as well. For blessed are the peacemakers. Your greatest fan, Trevor Milton.
And finally, a sexual assault allegation by Trevor's own cousin just added to the horrible mess. Many banks liquidated their Nikola stock.
We don't even want to talk about him fucking his cousin, but whatever.
Seemingly in disgust. The company received a myriad of subpoenas and investigations by the...
So a full-blown investigation went through. Like, you can look up these investigations where they this motherfucker, I'll talk about it in a minute. He's trying to now hype on the news of his pardon. He's now trying to hype a documentary film about himself. We cannot let this guy come back to a popular stance inside social media, okay? He should be run off social media with pitchforks and torches. Yeah, the Fire Festival. That's a good comparison. He put out this press release that people thought was fake. People thought this press release was fake because it hypes with his record fully cleared and his freedoms and rights restored. Milton is set to launch a documentary available for preview at trevormilton.com. When this hit the news, people are like, oh, that's got to be fake, right? The guy's lied about everything his whole life. Obviously, he's lying about this. It's got to be, nope. Hours later, Trump's like, yeah, we pardoned him. I don't see why not.
The Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission commenced.
He must not have ripped off anybody Trump hangs out with.
Company marketed as a game changer.
We've built something that no one else thought was possible.
Cleaner vehicles powered by hydrogen and electricity.
For every doubter out there that said that there's no way this is true, how can that be possible? We've done it.
But now the billionaire founder of Nikola
It was on every news outlet if you were paying attention.
Company
this is Good Morning America here.
Is being charged with securities fraud.
We have a statement. Check it out.
Milton seen leaving a Manhattan courthouse Thursday, charged by federal prosecutors who say he lied about every aspect of his truck of the future.
Milton claimed that the Nikola 1 could be driven, when in fact the closest it ever came to driving was when a group of Nikola engineers took it to the top of a hill and rolled it down.
They have the engineers rolled over, the people in the shops rolled over, everybody he had under NDA rolled over. Like it wasn't. He's going to try to set it up like. I saw the little documentary snippet, and he's like, if it wasn't a real one of the guys was like, if it wasn't a real product, how do we have 1,500 employees? What do you think they were working on? If it was a real product, you could have drove that motherfucker around. You wouldn't have your employees cooperating with the Department of Justice telling on you. They'd have been like, oh yeah, I worked on this every day.
So it could be filmed for a commercial.
Prosecutors claiming the truck's door even had to be taped up for the video so it wouldn't fall off.
The door, I forgot that I saw this when it came out. The door had to be taped closed because the latches didn't function. Never mind, it doesn't have a motor. It doesn't have a drivetrain. It doesn't have any gearing. It had to be towed. The door had to be taped closed.
At the end of July 2021, a federal grand jury charged Trevor Milton with 3 counts of criminal fraud. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan accused the 39-year-old billionaire of lying to investors, making false statements about the company, and wire fraud. The SEC also filed civil securities fraud charges against him, requiring the court to permanently bar him from acting as an officer and ordered him to pay fines, as well as give back any revenue gained by his deceit. Trevor Milton, of course, denies all wrongdoing and has pleaded not guilty to the charges. But this...
He was released on a $100 million bail. So I don't think he's ever served a day in jail. He was going to have to serve jail while he was out of jail while his appeals were pending. And you know, sometimes it takes years to get your appeals through. But yeah, it was like $600 million or some shit he was going to have to pay back, plus a bunch of other money and serve time in jail.
Will be a matter for the courts to decide. Since the charges, Nikola stock has been steadily falling. Following the indictment, the company stated, quote, "We remain committed to our previously announced milestones and timelines."
He sold $77 million of stock after convicted. $77 million in stock. And all it took was 1.8 to Trump's campaign. This motherfucker made out like a bandit. He's not going to have to, I mean, I guess they could still take civil cases out against him. He's not going to have to pay a dime as far as criminal proceedings. He's been fully cleared. Pardoned. Even that fucking pedophile down there in Kentucky is making a argument, and he might get away with being a fucking pedophile because of his Jan 6 argument. Because the shit that was found on his computer was only found after they arrested him for being at Jan 6, and they searched all of his shit. That's how they found out that he was a fucking pedo. So he might actually walk on those charges because of Trump's pardon.
And are focused on delivering Nikola Tre battery trucks later this year from the company's manufacturing facilities. Nikola continues to move forward under new management, but it has to be said, correcting the course of a company built on fraudulent claims by a compulsive liar is not going to be easy. The GM deal lies in limbo.
Nikola Motor loses another crucial deal, capping a catastrophic 2020. A very high-risk EV stock with potentially big upside. Bye-bye Badger. GM and Nikola scrap plans to build Badger electric truck. Nikola's stock crashes after announcing cancellation of contract with Republic Services for 2,500 garbage trucks. Nikola got some very bad news. It's a gut punch for investors.
And the stock price is at an all-time low, and faith in the company dwindles every day. Bosch, General Motors, and a slew of investors are left holding the bag.
I don't even know. It was still up when this video came out 3 years ago. Is it still even a company now? Nikola Corporation. Sustainability delivered. Nikola Class 8 zero-emission semi-trucks, driving the future of zero emissions. Their stock ticker is NKLAQ. NKLAQ. He still he cannot serve on the board. I think he can still be an owner. He's still the founder. He cannot serve on a board. His stock's trending high now that Trump pardoned him. God damn, it took off today. It is up 124% today. 124% today. I mean, it's still only trading at 24 cents, but still. It was down about 9 cents a share. Somewhere around now it's up to 24.
On a wider point, it's becoming clear that investors have collectively lost their minds. It seems as if they're only driven by lofty promises without doing a shred of research. Everyone was just so excited that they didn't want to look deeper, and herein lies the problem. Think of yourself as an inexperienced investor. You heard about this new company, and it just showed off a revolutionary truck. It was.
I think that was part of it. This was one of the big first pushes that was so public. I think this is why we have the qualified investors, right? You have to have at least so much money in the bank. You have to make at least this much a year before you can invest in these riskier stocks. But I think a bunch of people that fall below that saw it online, got hyped about it, shared it, tweeted it, invested in it, and probably lost a substantial amount of money they probably couldn't afford to lose.
Powered by new hydrogen technology, and also had amazing new battery technology. They partnered with major companies like Bosch and BP, and this company has raised a lot of money. You'd think you've hit a gold mine. You'd also think that you've gotten in on the next Tesla. This whole train wreck really is the old adage, fake it until you make it. But what happens if the things that you promise turn out to be much harder than anticipated? When do you pass the point of no return and just keep lying until you get caught?
I thought this was so cool when it came out.
For Milton, he just kept lying until the very end. In a way, the story of Trevor Milton and Nikola Motors would almost be impressive if it wasn't so morally bankrupt. Maybe he did this all to provide for his family that had suffered so much during those early years.
To provide for his family. It's one thing to steal a loaf of bread to feed your kids. It's another thing to buy the most expensive house in Utah.
But it could have just as easily been pure greed. I guess we may never know. And with that, that is the wild and twisting story of Nikola Motors. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. So thanks for watching. My name is DeGogo, and you've been watching Cold Fusion.
Anyways, let's read this statement, and then we'll go to the Trump video. Phoenix, March 27, 2025, PR Newswire. In a landmark decision, President Donald J. Trump has granted a full and unconditional pardon of innocence to Trevor Milton, founder of Nikola Corporation. In his second inaugural address, President Trump pledged to end the political weaponization of the Justice Department. This pardon makes a step towards fulfilling that commitment. Milton, a visionary entrepreneur who pioneered the first zero-emission semi-truck in the U.S. to reach production, was prosecuted by the Southern District of New York, led by former U.S. Attorney Damian Williams and Assistant U.S. Attorney Matthew Podolsky and Nicholas Roos. Milton fought to expose the fundamental legal flaws in the case against him, which ultimately resulted in his pardon. Trump, this is another thing Trump heard that he liked. The Southern District of New York, the same people that got Trump, right? The same people that made Trump the most convicted felon to ever serve in the office. The striking similarities between Milton's case and those brought against President Trump highlight systemic issues within the justice system, particularly within the Southern District of New York. The pardon is not just about me, it's about every American who has been railroaded by the government, and unfortunately, that's a lot of people, said Milton. It's no wonder why trust and confidence in the Justice Department has eroded to nothing. I wish judges would stop believing whatever the prosecutors feed them so Americans could trust the justice system again. Until that happens, our justice system will continue to erode until there is nothing left. The 90+% conviction rate in New York is appalling and is a result of prosecutors getting whatever they want and putting innocent people in prison. No, it's not. The reason it's not is because these big federal cases are never brought unless they think they have a slam dunk. They err on the side of, we don't want to put out all this press and then fucking lose kind of deal. I saw firsthand the tactics they use to achieve those guaranteed convictions. I am incredibly grateful to President Trump for his courage in standing up for what is right and for granting me this sacred pardon of innocence. With his record fully cleared and his freedom and rights restored, Milton is set to launch a documentary available for preview at trevormilton.com. And if we go there, trevormilton.com, biography, family, causes, justice, contact, conviction or conspiracy is the name of it. Here you go.
The fact that we are the first people in the world to deliver a fuel cell truck, this could change the entire world.
After you see this truck come to life here tonight, you guys will understand that what we show you, we can actually deliver on.
Trevor was a great salesman. That was his goal, zero emissions.
Nobody at that point had a fuel cell truck.
We're targeting the second largest polluting industry in the world, the trucking industry.
Again, look at what he's doing. the left, anybody on the left would have loved this motherfucker. He said he's bringing an end to diesel engines in the trucking industry. They'd have worshiped the ground he walked on.
Nikola stock surging.
Forming a strategic partnership with General Motors.
One point last week, it had a market cap bigger than that of Ford Motors.
He built something that became a $30 billion company.
So many amazing things were about to happen.
Nikola shares are tumbling after a short seller called the company, quote, an intricate fraud built on dozens of lies.
Nikola towed a truck up a hill and then just let it start rolling
because the truck couldn't run itself.
Lying to the public about Nikola's hydrogen capabilities.
Today, we announced charges against Trevor Milton.
They say the company has made false statements and it's had misleading demonstrations.
There's 1,500 employees. If it was a scam, what were those people working on?
Nothing. There was literally people saying we haven't touched the truck at all since the show a year ago.
The trucks worked. I mean, we had driving trucks at the time this came out.
Nikola Motors facing years in prison following his heartbreaking.
Due to the media's influence, the American public was being misled.
I'm sure your dad tells a real honest story about you.
The truth is important to me. That's why, for the first time, I'm telling my side of the story.
Trevor Milton, take one, marker.
He's still a multi-millionaire, right? But at least he was going to have to pay some people back. Coming soon to YouTube. Oh, yeah, they're already on top of it. President Trump wouldn't pardon a guy that actually did something wrong. He knows more than we do. He knows more. I got into an argument on Facebook the other day about the Signal debacle. And someone's like, don't you think the president knows more about this than you do? If we just accept that, how could the president ever be wrong? How could he ever make a mistake? Right? Let's say he nukes New York City. Don't you think he knew something was going on in New York City? Don't you think he knew more about New York City than you do? Fucking idiots. They eat this shit up. I don't even think Trump knew what the case is about.
What was your reason for pardoning Trevor Milton?
Highly recommended by many people that was taken advantage.
He means Pam Bondi.
Was taken advantage of. He did a business deal like in Utah, as I have it, and I think he was exonerated, and then they brought him into New York. We had a rough road. I mean, he was exonerated. It was a big celebration. Again, I don't know him, but I was. They say it was very unfair, and they say the thing that he did wrong was he was one of the first people that supported a gentleman named Donald Trump for.
What? They donated more than $1.8 million to Trump re-election campaign fund less than a month before the November election. What do you mean he support? He's never came out. No one even knew he liked Trump, if that's even true.
Big celebration. Again, I don't know him, but I was. They say it was very unfair, and they say the thing that he did wrong was he was one of the first people that supported a gentleman named Donald Trump for president. He supported Trump. He liked Trump. I didn't know him, but he liked him. It was in Utah, and they went after him. They went after his family. They went after his businesses, and he was. I believe exonerated, and then they went after him again, and they brought him this time into Manhattan, and he had nothing to do with Manhattan, and they got him. And I said, that's unfair. There are many people like that. They support Trump, and they went after him. You don't realize this is a vicious group of people that were in this office before us. This is a vicious group. They're violent. what they were doing to people.
He was just sentenced in 2023, I think. Yeah, 2023. He was sentenced.
A vicious group of people that were in this office before us. This is a vicious group. They're violent. What they were doing to people, and you could go story after hundreds and even thousands of stories, and they went after this man. And when I heard about it, I said, nope, not going to happen. They destroyed 5 years of his life. He fought for 5 years of his life, and he did nothing wrong. And he's a good person. And basically, I had these fantastic recommendations about him from people that you know very well, all top-of-the-line people. They thought it was a horrible thing. There are many such cases, by the way, many such cases.
Oh, in 2021, the United States federal grand jury returned an indictment against Trevor Melton that included 3 counts of securities fraud and wire fraud. He also faced civil securities fraud charges from the SEC. Milton, they ended up paying $125 million to the SEC. Milton pleaded not guilty to the charges and was freed on a $100 million bail. In June 2022, Milton was charged with an additional wire fraud charge. In October 2022, he was found guilty on 1 count of securities fraud and 2 counts of wire fraud, sentenced to 4 years in prison, $168 million in restitution, and a $1 million fine. It was expected Milton would, after credits earned through the First Step Act and other Bureau of Prisons programming, only serve approximately 1 year in federal prison. Milton was given a full pardon by President Donald Trump in March 2025. Milton was also represented by 2 lawyers with close connections to Trump, Mark Mulcahy and Brad Bondi, the brother of Pam Bondi. His lawyer was Pam Bondi's brother. How do you get more corrupt, dude? What does this tell everybody else? There's still people on Twitter being like, any day now, Phil's going to get arrested. You think? You think Phil's going to get arrested for doing exactly what Trump does? I don't know. Shit like that just pisses me off. Everybody else is struggling to get by. And these millionaires and billionaires are being handed everything on a golden platter. It's crazy. We got 2 videos to watch here. I'll have to open this first one, then open the older one. From this account.
I never thought I'd have to make a public response video to a U.S. senator, yet here we are. So let's get into it. On Wednesday, the Daily...
I don't know why.
...article...
TikTok always thinks I'm a bot for some reason. Okay, she made a video calling out her senator. Her husband was part of the airstrikes. Okay, her husband was part of the airstrikes against the Houthis. And she's very upset that he could potentially have been put in danger. So here's her first video calling out her senator, who will not return her phone call.
And so help me God, if I have to quit my fucking job to make sure that I can drive to every fucking campaign and public event that the senator has for the rest of his career, I will make it my life's work to destroy his career by making sure that every fucking Oklahoman knows how few fucks he gave about my husband's life and the lives of other active duty service members. But I do want to make it very clear, and I hope that you will take down this message and relay it to the senator to help encourage him to actually be a man and make sure that I get a call set up when I reach out to the scheduler. I want you to let him know that if he doesn't reach out to me, I'm recording every single time that I have called his office and left a voicemail or spoke to an intern like you. I am recording all of those. And if I don't hear back from him, I will be sending them to every possible newsroom, both in Oklahoma and nationally, to let them know that the senator is too much of a coward to call back the wife of one of the service members in his constituency that was put at risk. And so help me God, if I have to quit my fucking job to make sure that I can drive to every fucking campaign and public event that the senator has for the rest of his career, I will make it my life's work to destroy his career by making sure that every fucking Oklahoman knows how few fucks he gave about my husband's life and the lives of other active duty service members.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
All right, and so help me God, if I have to quit my fucking job to make sure that I can drive to every fucking campaign and public event that the senator has.
Pretty intense. I don't know where the first video starts this. I know she released that one. Let me see. I think this might be the first one.
Whose husband is currently deployed in the Middle East, not far from Yemen. I'm going to warn you now, this is going to be the angriest fucking video I have ever made in my entire life, because there are not adequate words in the English language for me to fully fucking communicate to you right now how fucking furious I am. In case you haven't seen yet, news just broke that multiple high-level members of the Trump administration, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, shared highly classified information about upcoming troop movements and strikes in Yemen via a signal chat that they accidentally added a reporter to, violating the fucking Espionage Act in the process and putting the lives of thousands of service members, including my husband's, at risk. It is only because of the fucking integrity of the reporter that information did not get leaked out and cause the deaths of service members. They did all of this after we they already knew that Signal had recently been fucking hacked by Russians looking for information about troop movement. Even if you set aside the fact that they accidentally included a reporter in this group chat, and none of them even thought to maybe make sure that there wasn't anyone in the group that there shouldn't be, even if you set all of that aside and it was only the people they meant to be in there, they still fucking violated the Espionage Act. They still put troop lives at risk. Their phones could very easily be hacked. Their phones could very easily be stolen. Their phones could very easily be left behind at whatever fucking bar Pete Hegseth goes to after work every day to get fucking drunk because he's a goddamn alcoholic. All it would take is one of those fucking phones falling into the wrong hands, and those motherfuckers would have sent hundreds of troop members into a fucking ambush. Every single Republican member of Congress better be on national news within the next few fucking hours calling for the fucking resignation of every single motherfucker on that group chat, up to and including J.D. Vance. There is no world in which it is acceptable for any one of those motherfuckers to still have their job by the end of today. If any person in the military did something like this, those motherfuckers would not only lose their job, lose their rank, lose their retirement, they would be in front of a fucking military judge before you could fucking blink. They should not face any less punishment. In a sane world, this scandal would be presidential administration ending. This scandal would single-handedly bring a presidential administration to their knees. It would end them. It is only because of the pathetic slavish devotion of MAGA types and the fact that they will fucking sell out every fucking value they have ever claimed to have in order to fucking justify every single evil thing that Donald Trump ever does. That is the only reason why this single scandal won't end Trump's presidency. But it absolutely should fucking end J.D. Vance's career. It absolutely should fucking end Marco Rubio's career. It absolutely should fucking end Pete Hegseth's career. If you are a Republican member of Congress and you aren't on news within the next few hours calling for their resignations, doing everything that you can to get these pathetic, fucking dangerous men out of office, then you should keep troops' names and lives out of your fucking mouths forever. I don't ever want to fucking hear you say you support the troops ever again. Because no, the fuck you don't. This is the moment where you either prove that you actually give a shit about national security, you actually give a shit about the lives of service members, or you prove once and for all that you will forever toe the party line. If you do not even have the fucking courage to call what just happened the fucking abomination that it is, then honestly, you should put yourself out of your misery and definitely put us out of our misery by stepping down out of your fucking office. Because how dare you gather a paycheck from the American taxpayer while not even having the fucking courage to call out multiple high-level officials violating the fucking Espionage Act and endangering the lives of hundreds, possibly thousands of service members in the Middle East right now. Fuck every single one of you. And honestly, if you still support Donald Trump after this, regardless of whether you're an elected politician or just a random Joe Schmo, fuck you too. As someone whose husband is currently
that was the first one.
Imagine thinking so little.
It says the Republicans do not and have never cared about U.S. troops, and she's responding to it.
Imagine thinking so little of yourself that the most that you expect out of your elected leaders, people that you pay the salary of, is owning the libs. Like, imagine not having the self-esteem or self-respect to expect your elected leaders to improve your life in some structural way, especially when those politicians literally got their job by promising to do so. You know, over the last 24 hours, ever since my most recent video went viral, where I was talking about the signal chat situation as the wife of an active duty service member who is currently deployed near Yemen right now, my mentions and inbox on every platform have been filled with thousands of cruel comments from conservatives. And the cruelty of their comments doesn't shock me. What shocks me is how much those comments have revealed about how little they think of themselves. These people literally do not believe that they deserve to have elected leaders who don't commit espionage. They don't believe that they deserve to have elected leaders who don't lie to them. Like, I know that they don't think that I deserve anything. I get that. I know that they think that I'm a huge piece of garbage, and by extension, my active duty service member is also a piece of garbage. I get that. I'm very, very clear on what their stance is on that. But how do they not think that they deserve better? I mean, imagine thinking that you are so unimportant as a person that it literally does not matter how your elected leaders' actions harm you, as long as it also harms the libs. They are literally placing more emphasis on liberals' lives than they are on their own. The subtext of every single one of these cruel messages that I've gotten is that they literally think that the people they despise most in this world are more important than they are. That's sad. That is.
Did a U.S. service member die from injuries? Sorta. They were doing a humanitarian mission on like this pier they built into Gaza or whatever. High winds or something. I think he was like crushed by a ship or some shit like that.
So unbearably sad. Please do whatever work you need to do to learn and really truly believe in the core of your.
He wasn't special force. He's part of a transportation something other.
That you deserve better. You don't have to believe that I deserve better. You don't have to believe that the left deserves better or that liberals deserve better. But you shouldn't go through life not understanding that you deserve better. What a sad, sad life. Imagine thinking so little of yourself that the most that you.
That's the second video. And then we watch this one, and then there's an update to this.
I never thought I'd have to make a public response video to a U.S. senator, yet here we are. So let's get into it. On Wednesday, the Daily Beast published an article talking about the videos that I made about Signalgate as the wife of an active duty service member who's currently deployed in the Middle East. In the process of writing this article, the Daily Beast reached out to both White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and U.S. Senator Markwayne Mullin, both of whom declined to comment. But wouldn't you know it, mere hours after the senator was asked to respond to my viral videos, which he has now absolutely 100%.
So her video went viral. Of her calling basically a staffer and saying, I need to talk to this motherfucker. I'm recording everything. I'll make sure that he never works again or is elected again. I'll go to every campaign stop. He posted a video on his social media called Spare Me.
100% beyond a shadow of a doubt scene, the senator decided to post this video on Twitter with the caption, Spare Me. So I think it's safe to say that a pretty solid portion of this video.
Her video went viral and was picked up by several news agencies.
Is directed.
I know he saw it
personally, so we're going to go through it and respond.
I want to take some time to just talk to you about this signal chatting.
Okay, great. I've been asking to talk to you about it for nearly a week now, Markwayne, so I'm glad that you're finally willing to talk.
Again, the Democrats are blowing this up.
Is it Democrats blowing this up, or is it military family members and veterans rightfully wanting to have a conversation about the fact that multiple high-level members of our president's cabinet violated the Espionage Act and put the lives of service members at risk?
Out of something to make a story.
It's not a story, Markwayne. It's our loved ones' lives.
Even Chuck Schumer was on the floor today just lying out his teeth over his little bitty glasses, and I don't mean to make fun of him.
I absolutely do mean to make fun of you and your cowboy cosplay act that you put on when I remind everyone of the Southern saying, all hat and no cattle.
But it just aggravates me when I have to sit here and listen to the left just spew lies.
The only lies were the lies that Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard told in a congressional hearing, Mark Wayne.
They're calling for his resignation.
Yeah, of course we're demanding his resignation. This is not about partisan politics, Mark Wayne. This is about service members' lives. This is about the lives of the people in the countries where they are stationed as well. This is about human lives. Other humans are real people, Mark Wayne. Other people are not just your partisan talking points, Mark Wayne.
Do you remember when the Secretary of Defense underneath Biden, named Secretary Austin, left town for surgery? Didn't even tell anybody?
Didn't leave town. Did have it. Did tell people.
Jesus, man, this is how I know you are fucking floundering. This is the best distraction that you could come up with? Oh my God. In case you aren't aware of what Mark Wayne Mullins is talking about here, he's referring to back in January of 2024 when then Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was hospitalized for a few days following complications of a bladder surgery that he had had about a month prior. There was never any gap in authority. It had zero impact on literally anyone, did not put the safety of any service member into jeopardy for even a single second. And as even Mark Wayne has to then admit in his own video,
I guess he didn't really leave town. He was at Walter Reed.
He never left town because he was just at Walter Reed.
No one called for him to resign. No one asked who was monitoring his phone at the time.
The right did. The right said it was indefensible. He should resign. Oh my God, can't believe this. Can't believe this is going on. Then they did a full investigation and found out, oh, well, he did go through the proper chains of command. Like, he did have someone monitoring the lines and staying up to date and briefing him daily.
They did ask who was monitoring his phone at the time. And you know this because you were in Congress. You saw the results of the investigation that they did. They looked into it and determined that the Pentagon had it under control.
What about all the miscommunication that was going through the Afghanistan withdrawal?
See, this is the part where I'm going to lose my cool, Mark Wayne. American service members are not just fucking talking points, Mark Wayne. They're human beings. So you using the deaths of some service members to try and excuse the grave danger that other service members were put in, that's you disrespecting all of those service members on both sides. You should be ashamed of yourself for that. How dare you fucking disrespect the sacrifice that those 13 service members made by bringing them up to defend the fact that you're still writing hard for the guy that violated the fucking Espionage Act and put service members at risk.
The dogs that were left literally in the cages?
Is there a reason that you give more of a fuck about the dogs that were left in the cages than you do about my husband's life? Because that's very sad about the dogs. But why do you care more about those dogs than you do about the service members who are currently deployed right now?
Specifically targeting the Houthis. That's a terrorist organization that the Biden administration ignored.
You're
also wrong,
Wayne. And see, I know for sure that you're lying about this because I happen to know multiple service members who deployed to Saudi Arabia and the border of Yemen as a part of Operation Prosperity Guardian, which the Biden administration launched in December of 2023 with a coalition of 10 countries, specifically in relation to Houthi activity in the Red Sea. And again, I know that you know that you're...
I think most of the equipment left behind has been debunked, though we did leave some equipment behind. When they're talking about like fucking tanks and helicopters and shit, that was all for the Afghani army that they surrendered it immediately. They didn't have any support.
Lying. When you lie about that, you are also lying about those active duty service members' sacrifices for our country. How dare you, Mark Wayne? Seriously, how dare you? Again, these service members are human beings. They are not your talking points. And I understand that you have no way of understanding their sacrifice or their family's sacrifice because it's a sacrifice that you slimeball, have never made. So you probably think it's not a big deal to make those kind of lies, right? But Mark Wayne, you're wrong. You're wrong, and you're shameful, and you're disgusting for doing that.
I'm more disgusted by it because it's all show for them.
I'm almost impressed with the audacity that it takes, accusing other people of putting on a show while you are in your cowboy cosplay getup, my friend. That is an impressive show of audacity.
It's just their hatred towards President Trump and anyone connected to him.
Once again, Mark Wayne, this isn't about partisan politics. This is about people's lives. And every time that you argue that it is just, oh, it's about they hate President Trump. No, motherfucker, for you, it's about the fact that you will do anything, you will say anything to defend that man because you currently see him as essential to your own pursuit of power. That is pathetic. That is disgusting. And that is going to be your downfall. And finally, now that it's been yet another day of Mark Wayne Mullen in his office not reaching back out to me, despite the fact that I've now made multiple viral videos and they have been contacted by multiple national news outlets specifically asking them about my videos, I just have a suggestion for Mark Wayne. If you think that you're going to be able to ignore me forever, perhaps you should stop by your colleague, Senator James Lankford's office, the other U.S. Senator from the state of Oklahoma, and ask him how it went for him when he tried to ignore me. Oh, and tell him I said, thanks so much. Suggestion for Mark Wayne. If you think
What did the article say?
you're able to ignore me forever, perhaps you should.
Oklahoma healthcare advocate gets Senator James Lankford's attention via tweets on plane.
Stop by your colleague, Senator James Lankford's office, the other U.S. Senator from the state of Oklahoma, and ask him how it went for him when he tried to ignore me. Oh, and tell him I said, thanks so much once again for
There she is already calling out Lankford.
both the one-on-one phone call and the in-person meeting that I successfully pressured him into back in the day. See you soon, Mark Wayne. I never thought to make a public video to
I don't know. I think everything else is old. That is her most recent update. But she's not wrong. I mean, I would be pissed, right? You should be pissed. It doesn't matter what the previous administration did. It doesn't matter what any administration has done. There is no fucking get out of jail free card for exposing this shit. One of them was in fucking Moscow at the time. That's wild. That's crazy. In Moscow, with his private device going off in his pocket with fucking war plans. I don't know. People are crazy, I guess. Fucking Mariah's car needs a goddamn water pump. A water pump. You know, a water pump used to be like a $50 part, and you could put it on in like 30 minutes. Mariah's fucking water pump, to replace the water pump on her car, it's a 2017 Explorer, 3.5 naturally aspirated engine, not the EcoBoost, is going to cost close to $5,000 to replace. The entire top of the motor has to come off, like the cover, the valve covers, the fucking injectors, the goddamn cool packs. All the things have to come off the top of the motor till you get down to where you can see the camshafts. Then everything has to come off the front of the motor and a fucking motor mount, right? And the water pump is behind the timing chain cover, ran by the timing chain. And it's a very, very strong suggestion that all the timing chain phasers, the fucking cam gears, the fucking actuators, the chain, the tensioners, all that's replaced at the same time because it's such an in-depth job. And it's coming up on 120,000 miles or some shit. So at 150, all that's supposed to be replaced anyways. Like, that's fucking insane. It's going to cost me like $2,000 in parts. I'm going to try to do it myself. I can't afford $5,000 for a goddamn water pump. I'm going to try to do it myself, and it's going to be almost $2,000. Almost $2,000 for the fucking parts to do it. That's fucking insane, dude. The goddamn water pump on my Jeep is $48. And it's 8 bolts. $38. Anyways, it's less than 50. And it's 8 bolts. And some fucking RTV. Shit's crazy. It's a insane in-depth job. Hold on. 2017 Explorer 3.5 water pump. Fucking insane, dude. It's all behind. Here it is. Yeah, it's all behind the timing chain cover. And to get the timing chain off, to get down to all this, you have to tear all the shit off the top of the motor. That's it right there. So this is timing chain. You got the front bank and cams, and then you got the rear bank. Timing chain, tensioner, or tensioner on this side, slack on this side. But no, tensioner on this side. I'm wrong. There it is. And then that's the water pump right there. That's fucking insane, dude. So they get paid labor at so they have a book that tells them how long something's going to take, and that's what you get paid on. If the book says it takes 5 hours, it takes you 7, you still get paid for 5, right? If it takes you 2, you still get paid for 5. So if you're good at your job, you make more money as a mechanic, right? Flat rate. They pay them as if the motor has to be pulled. So the motor and transmission has to be separated, and the motor has to come out of the fucking car. That's how they get paid on it. Even though most mechanics and most do-it-yourselfers do it with it in the car. The problem is there's like a frame rail right here. So like some of these bolts, you have to jack up the motor. That's why you take the motor mount out. The motor mount sits right here too. Some of the bolts, you have to jack up the car a little bit and take these 2 bolts out, then jack it down and take the rest of them out. But they get paid as if they're removing the fucking motor. Fucking goddamn $5,000 for a water pump. The labor's over $2,000. The parts are like $2,000, almost $2,000. You have to change out all the actuators, the both sets of chains, the big chains, the small chains, because they have sync chains for the exhaust and intake. The gears, they're all torque to yield bolts. The tensioners, the guides, the secondary actuators, the intake and exhaust. The 4 actuators for the cam gears. It's a variable valve timing. The water pump. I'm looking at all the parts right now. I'm trying to remember what they all are. Serpentine belt and tensioner. Yeah. I got to get it done. So the reason we found this out is because our water pump's just leaking. It has a weak hole. It has a weep hole. When a water pump goes bad, it usually starts dripping, and that's basically telling you like it's bad, like the seals are going out in it. Because hers is buried back here, it actually drips out this. You can actually see it right here. Hold on, I'll zoom in. It wouldn't be good for it to just drip right here because it would go in your oil and it'd fuck up your engine. So instead, it's got this tunnel. See this little round tube here? It's got this tunnel that it's allowed to drip out of, which comes out over here behind the alternator in a really hard to see spot. And it drips out of that. So her coolant was low, and the first sign was like her heat was only working like when she accelerated, and when she would be at idle for a little bit, like her heat would get cold, like there's not enough coolant in there. And I replaced the coolant, which was a mess in and of itself. Like I put more coolant in it because it's made to be filled by pulling a vacuum and letting the coolant be sucked in, because the heater core, obviously bubbles, air is going to rise to the top, right? The heater core is higher than most of the other components in the car. So the part that actually blows your heat ends up with a bubble trapped in it. So literally I spent hours trying to work a bubble out of this coolant system. Like add some coolant and try to get air out of it. And the process for that is to top up the coolant tank. Like it's got a degasser. Top up the degas bottle an inch above full. Then get in the car, start it, let it run for a couple seconds. Hold it at 3,500 RPMs for 30 seconds. Let it idle for 30 seconds. Turn it off. Check the level. Get back in and do that again for hours. For hours. Eventually, I was just like, fuck it. It's not fucking working. The bubbles are not working themselves out. So I just got in and drove it in weird position, like up hills and on the side of things, like in weird fucking scenarios to get the bubbles to travel out of the fucking system. And eventually it worked. I ended up adding a shit ton of coolant. But it hasn't overheated. It doesn't have a head, it doesn't have a head gasket problem. It's had a rear main oil leak for forever, but it's so low that like her oil changes on synthetic go like 8,000 miles or something. We lose like 1 quart of oil over an entire oil change. So it's so slow I haven't fucked with it because the goddamn transmission's got to be taken out to replace the rear main seal. But other than that, it's been pretty dependable. It's a 2017 Ford Explorer with a 3.5 liter in it. We bought it new. I can't complain about it, I guess. We haven't had any major like breakdowns or anything. If anything, she goes through tires like crazy. But this water pump thing has got me fucking... We have a trip planned. Basically, my aunt owns a place down in Florida, and she's going to be down there this summer. So we're not going to be able to afford to take like a vacation. So she invited us down to like stay with them for like a week for vacation, right? Like a free vacation to go hang out with them for a week. And, but I got to fix the car before we can do that. So I got to come up with at least a couple grand just to buy the parts, even if I do it myself. I guess I'll do it myself and try to make a video out of it. And if I fuck it up, maybe it'll get a lot of views and I'll go viral. Because who knows what's about to happen. But it has. I'm not driving it to Florida the way it is. I'd like to get it done in the next month or two, probably. I don't know. We'll see. Support the car fund at coldbeer.fund, I guess.
This is a wild clip from Steve Bannon, the extreme MAGA figure, who garners a pretty significant audience from what I can tell, and issued a warning to Trump and to Trump supporters. I think it's important that you hear what some of his supporters are hearing, because it gives you sort of this bleak look at what they believe the stakes to be, and kind of going into future elections where their headspace is at. And it sets up a really dangerous thing that we could see that we're going to have to start preparing for now, which is lies about future election results. But here's Steve Bannon talking to Eric Bolling.
I think I can do just about anything. Like, I'm not going to say I could like do it from memory, but like I can get the repair notes, right? The tech service bulletins, and I could do it. I just got to it'd take me a lot longer. Like what would take a shop like 6 hours or something might take me 2 fucking days, but I can take my time and do it. I used to work for Ford back in the day, but only I worked part way through high school and then probably another 8 months after that. So in real time, maybe like 10 months, because I only worked half a day when I was in high school. I did co-op.
And he says that if Trump or if Democrats win in 2028, then Trump's going to jail.
That's the type of pressure we need here. We are kidding ourselves if we don't think that Democrats are pulling all stops out to stop President Trump, to take the House through any means necessary, to impeach Trump start the impeachment process in the first weeks of 2027. And God forbid we don't win in 28. President Trump is going to prison, just like Bolsonaro in Brazil. People are sitting around still with the glow.
Great comparison to Bolsonaro and his coup. As if that's the wrong thing is that justice should be served.
Of November 4th and all the inaugurations and all the balls, we're at war. And the things that happened in the last 72 hours, if you don't understand we're in political warfare,
we're at war.
You're not awake.
I agree. I think it's scary.
The House right now, the House Oversight Committee just passed this weird executive reorganization bill, which isn't weird in and of itself, okay? I don't want you to believe that's weird. Other presidents have taken action underneath it, basically empowered by Congress to take certain actions. Like creating FEMA was one of the actions. What's weird about it is that they are basically giving Trump the authority to do. Right now, he knows every time he's tried to do away with these federal agencies, he's been blocked in court. Right? The court comes up and says, Congress made it, you can't take it away. The Republicans in Congress are trying to give away that power. They're trying to give away that power. So right now, if Trump wanted to get rid of a federal agency, it would take 60 votes. Okay? At least 60 votes. If they pass this Reorganization Act with the 60 votes it would take in Congress or in the Senate, then his future, like I want to get rid of FEMA or I want to get rid of the Department of Education, when those came in, they would still have to come in front of Congress, but it would only take a simple majority because he's doing it under the Reorganizing Government Acts. Which just sounds crazy. Chantel Brown offered an amendment that would have required the president's reorganization plan to include a list of all executive databases that contain personal and private information of Americans, citizens that DOJ has accessed. And, of course, that was turned down. And prohibited employees of the Elon Musk-led group and his partners from accessing this information. The amendment struck down a vote. I think we should all agree no president, no bureaucrat, no unelected billionaire should have free reign over American citizens' private information, Brown said. Let's protect the American people, not strip them of their rights. Brown said it remains unclear the degree to which DOJ members had access to this information. And while we attempted to subpoena Mr. Musk and clarify the work they've been doing in this newly created department. We were rejected by Republican colleagues. So they wouldn't even subpoena Musk. Done, right? Coomer called Brown's amendment another attempt by the committee of Democrats to misconstrue what this bill does. Coomer defended the bill, saying the legislation was simply an allowance of the current administration to reorganize the federal government in a similar way to former President Barack Obama, who requested that Congress renew and revise the same reorganization authority during his presidency. But they've changed it. Don't let them tell you it's the same. It's not. This authority is not, let me repeat, is not some new abusive or unprecedented power by the Democrats would like us all to believe. A reorganization plan will only go into effect if Congress approves it, thus preserving our role. Yeah, but with a simple majority. There's a big difference, okay? Right now, it would be filibuster proof and it would be a simple majority. Right now, if he wants to do away with the Department of Education, it would have to go through the Senate and they would need at least 60 votes. If he does it through this bill that they're trying to pass right now, the Reorganization Act, he would need only a simple majority. It'd be filibuster proof and he'd need a simple majority. It's the same way they did their, they passed their outline for tax cuts, right? Their outline for tax cuts required 60 votes. But now that it's already set in place, the revisions under that will only need a simple majority.
The thought of Florida 1 looks like...
Okay, so they're starting to realize that already the tides could be shifting. And I keep coming back to this, but people, unfortunately, in many cases, needed to see what we were wanting to prevent. And upon seeing it, they're going to want something different. And it's why it's so important that we provide a strong message as to what the opposition to Trump and then what affirmatively we stand for can look like. But there, Trump supporters are hearing the message that if Democrats take power in the future, the dear leader is going to jail. Now, what's interesting is Bannon's going to say that in a conspiratorial way. I have no idea what Trump's legal troubles would look like if he, when he ends up leaving office. But it doesn't make sense that just by winning the election, the fact that he tried to illegally overturn a previous election should just be forgotten. So that would be justice. I feel that that's unlikely that it would even be pursued that late in the game. But similar to his reference to Bolsonaro, just because you say it in an urgent, this is bad tone of voice doesn't make the argument sound. And that is what we're going to get for so long, which is why we spoke out so much against the election denialism in the first place, was because we knew it was going to be a generational consequence of Trump's presence on the scene, where in congressional races and then the next presidential election, and if we can do everything that I'm saying I believe we can do in building a movement that's opposed to the anti-democratic, authoritarian disaster that is Trump's administration, his targeting of crucial programs, we're still, upon victory, going to have to deal with the most insane lies about what came of that victory, despite them, or what caused it, despite them seeing that clearly it wasn't rigged because they won. It's ridiculous. It was too big to rig, they say. While Bannon and his followers want to believe that Trump's the warrior against corruption, he is the epitome of it. Here's another example. Trump defends pardoning one of his political donors who was represented...
It's really going to hurt a lot of places in the South, like Kentucky.
...by Pam Bondi's brother. They're just smearing it all over our face. President Donald Trump defended his pardon of Trevor Milton, the disgraced former CEO of the electric truck manufacturer Nikola. In December 2023, Milton was sentenced to 4 years in prison after being convicted of defrauding investors. He had been free pending appeal. Milton's scheme targeted individual, non-professional investors, so-called retail investors, by making false and misleading statements directly to the investing public through social media and television, print, and podcast interviews, the Department of Justice said shortly after he was sentenced. During the case, Milton retained Brad Bondi, the brother of longtime Trump ally Pam Bondi. Milton and his wife donated more than $1.8 million to Trump, and in return, Trump pardons him. That is so nasty. Here's him defending it.
What was your reason for pardoning Trevor Milton?
Highly recommended by many people. That was taken advantage of. He did a business deal, like in Utah, as I have it, and I think he was exonerated, and then they brought him into New York.
Yeah, no, so, okay, he's going to go on to mischaracterize, but listen to what he says there. I don't know. Essentially, his answer for everything now is, someone told me to. I don't know, it was recommended to me. So... Elon gets to give him invest hundreds of millions of dollars in getting him elected, and then he gives Elon all this power to go gut institutions that seek to hold Elon accountable. Then Trump receives a bunch of money from other people and is looking to cut their taxes even more, the richest among us. And then now this Trevor Milton character, his family gives a certain amount of money, and Trump's going to say that didn't influence the decision, but it's, at the very least, it stinks of corruption, and it's the very rigged system that Trump duped people into thinking he was going to fight against. Meanwhile, as his friends are benefiting, you have average Americans watching this.
So much woo, folks. This is a tough way to end the week if you're long the market. If you're long gold, you're happy, but Dow is losing about 724, the S&P down 113, the NASDAQ down 484.
By the way, this whole dynamic that no matter what the performance of the stock market is, they close it by all clapping is really a strange dynamic. Woohoo! It's plummeting, yay!
That will do it for us.
And then Kudlow's going to come on. Before telling that part, please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate the show. Here's Kudlow, who's a Trump guy, but he looks noticeably uncomfortable with what Trump's doing to the markets.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. So markets crashed over 700 points today after a bad inflation report, more tariff confusion.
Oh, imagine that.
Oh, and by the way, Republicans really going to raise taxes? That could have done it. Our own Sandra Smith, Taylor Riggs, and Jerry.
Okay, and then there's Kudlow upset that there was a report that maybe there's some consideration in not lowering the taxes of the very tip top. I'll believe that when I see it, so we'll wait to see. But that came.
Yeah, Elon Musk announced earlier today that he sold X to his AI company under the same umbrella. He has sold his social media company X to XAI. His artificial intelligence company, XAI, will pay $45 billion for X, slightly more than Musk paid for it in 2022, but the new deal includes $12 billion of debts. He says that this new deal gives X a valuation of $33 billion.
Up in conversation, it was a consideration. Should we, maybe not shovel even more wealth to the wealthy? Which I'm guessing the response is going to ultimately be, of course not. But Kudlow was very upset about that. Can I just note, what is this whole thing?
Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow.
It's a little redundant, no? Couldn't you just say, hi, welcome to Kudlow, I'm Larry? Ooh, that doesn't sound right, does it? Larry, that kind of comes in a little soft. Welcome to the Luke Beasley Show. I'm Luke Beasley. And then checking in on Musk just to get through at the end of the week a few of these miscellaneous items. He said this in an interview.
You give it out, in other words. Democratic Arizona Senator Mark Kelly posted on X about his trip to Ukraine to push for continuing to send U.S. weapons and support there, and you posted that he was a traitor. Well, why do that?
Well, I think somebody should care about the interests of the United States above the interests of another country. And if they don't, they're a traitor.
Yeah, but he's a decorated veteran.
Imagine this guy who's not even from the United States, right? A decorated war veteran, a goddamn astronaut, dude.
And a former astronaut, a sitting U.S. senator.
That doesn't mean it's okay for him to put the interests of another country above America.
Obviously, there are some Republicans who think supporting Ukraine is the right thing.
He even puts his fingers together like a movie villain. Let's see if I can get this. There's one particular part that just looked very uncomfortable to me. That's not. I'll describe for our podcast listeners. You know how people
That does look uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable.
Eat the tips of each of their fingers and then hold their hands together to sort of look like they're thinking, I've done it.
That's still like 30% of what he paid for it.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad, but he's doing it with a weird wonk, a little wonkiness to it, as he's calling Mark Kelly a traitor. What's his justification for such rhetoric? Because Mark Kelly
has never once said, let's put U.S. in harm. Let's defund the U.S. Let's take all the money we would be using. He's just saying we need to continue to support Ukraine. It would be different if he's like, fuck what's going on in the U.S. We need to do this and that. But he's not. He just said we need to continue to support Ukraine.
Supportive of Ukraine. And Elon, in this next clip I'm trying to queue up, is glitching. If you see me looking down a lot, apologies. The computer's going crazy. But could you never... This is what destroys our political discourse and why I try to say to you all, here's my characterization of one of my opponents, but here's maybe what they would say.
So this is just like Elon says that the left, everybody that disagrees with all the left's rhetoric, they're all Nazis, right? But he's literally saying, if you support Ukraine in any fashion or think we should support Ukraine as a country, you're a traitor.
Say they're arguing. Right? I'll say that Trump says he's a warrior for the working class, and he says his tariff policies are in the interest of that, but in reality they're not. Right? So I'll dispute about at least try to explain the argument that Elon is saying if you think we should support Ukraine, you're putting Ukraine above the United States, and that makes you a traitor, which is a sick thing to say about someone so baselessly, because obviously if you take 2 seconds to be intellectually honest, you know that the reason people think we should support Ukraine is because it's in our national security interest, because of Russia's role on the world stage.
Oh, by the way, speaking of Elon Musk got called out for violating election law, so he just changed it. He literally wanted to have a rally tomorrow in Wisconsin where the only way you could get in is if you voted in the Supreme Court election, and he was going to give away $1 million to 2 different people, a total of $2 million. And the state's like, it's illegal to encourage people to vote or not vote with any monetary amounts. So he just changed it. Hold on. He says, just to clarify, even more important, the Wisconsin Supreme Court race is the ballot initiative to add voter ID to the state constitution, which will ensure integrity. That's not it. They're like, that's illegal. And he's like, well, we'll just do it like this instead. Okay. On Sunday night, I will give a talk in Wisconsin. To clarify a previous post, entrance is now limited to those who have signed the petition in opposition to activist judges. It did say entrance is limited to those who voted in this race. Now to clarify, not completely changing it because what I did was fucking illegal. To clarify, what I actually meant was to those who have signed the petition in opposition to activist judges. I will also hand over checks for $1 million to 2 people to be the spokesperson for the petition. Now, again, the first post said, hold on. Thank God he clarified. By clarified means called out as being fucking illegal. So we're just going around the law, I guess, now. On 27 March, Mr. Musk posted on X that he would give a talk in Wisconsin and personally hand over 2 checks for $1 million in appreciation for you taking the time to vote. Musk, top advisor, blah, 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 the petition. They sued him to stop this $1 million for voting. I want the actual tweet, though. Give me just a second. Exciting to announce our first $1 million award for supporting our petition against activist judges. That's the judge one. Okay, here's the original post at 11:57. On Sunday night, I will give a talk in Wisconsin. Entrance is limited to those who have voted in the Supreme Court election. I will also personally hand over 2 checks for $1 million each in appreciation for you taking the time to vote. This is super important. Wisconsin said that's fucking illegal. You can't encourage people with anything monetary to either vote or not vote. It doesn't even matter about the parties. You can't even tell them don't vote or make sure you vote when promising them some type of monetary gain. This motherfucker's like, I'll give out $1 million, but the only way to win is if you go vote in the Supreme Court election. And by the way, this turned out, he did this during Trump's campaign, right? To vote in Pennsylvania. It turned out it was a lie. He set it up as if anybody could win $1 million if they voted or registered to vote and voted. Turns out the PAC that he donated it through went through applications of certain people and picked spokesmen whose salary was $1 million that fit the character of the super PAC that they wanted to portray. He set it up as if it was a fucking lottery and anybody could win it. Turns out the super PAC was screening people to be pro-Trump, pro-Elon, and they would pay them $1 million salary to be the spokespeople. What the fuck, dude? He deleted this post, by the way. I'm pretty sure that's why I had to go find it somewhere else. God damn, he tweets too much. I saw that fucking I saw that fucking Assassin's Creed roasted him. He was talking shit about the new Assassin's Creed game, and they're like, "Is that what the guy you pay to play your video game, the one that he's so good at, allegedly? Is that what the person you pay to play your video game says?" There it is. Scott Ainsworth of Green Bay, Wisconsin, is the first $1 million spokesperson for signing our petition in opposition to activist judges. Stay tuned between now and April 1st for more surprise announcements from Wisconsin. This is fucked up, dude. This is fucked up. Getting people to vote the way he wants them to vote for a chance to win $1 million. He can say all he wants. Well, you can vote anyway, or you could sign. You don't have to sign. This is fucked up.
In seeking to destabilize us, and how further aggression could destabilize the world and involve us in a more direct conflict. So by supporting Ukraine, we're preventing ourselves from having to get into more direct conflict or have economic military destabilization because of Russia's aggression. That's Elon, likes to think of himself as a genius. That's like really very simple to figure out. You don't have to agree with it. You'd be wrong if you did disagree, but you don't have to agree. At least, though, have a good faith understanding of what you're arguing against. Police. And then this was a very ominous moment.
It's the people pushing the propaganda that caused that guy to do it.
So he says the people firebombing his Teslas are not the real criminals. It's the people pushing the propaganda, and him and Trump are going after them. They promise.
Those are the real villains here. And we're going to go after them. And the president's made it clear we're going to go after them. The ones providing the money, the ones pushing the lies and propaganda, we're going after them. It's...
Yeah. I hate how he, when he's talking, the more intense he wants to make a point, the more he lowers his head. While he's talking, he'll be talking, and he's like a bird, like an owl, or no, like a fucking vulture or some shit, lowering their head with their neck.
Ugh. That was almost as cringy as watching the guy who was vandalizing Tesla stick his hand in his pants and smear his own poo. That's look at how gross this was.
It's and propaganda. We're going after them.
Yeah. He looks like he's auditioning for a role of a movie villain. We're going after them. In the script, it says point your two fingers. It's a little strange. Elon. So what's so dangerous about that is I agree people should be held accountable if they commit crimes and vandalizing Tesla or whatever. I've already explained that's so bad. It's harming people who aren't involved. If some random person has Tesla, it's against our values of not doing, crime, not criming. And it also puts the focus on something other than how terrible Elon is. Because now
if it's people that would sign a petition to remove left liberal activist judges, he's absolutely paying people that believe the same as him.
Something that is bad is focused on instead of the things that we should be opposed to and we can peacefully oppose with Elon. Okay, so I already addressed that. But he's now saying the people who spread the propaganda, as he's calling it, that leads to such vandalism, meaning people saying, like yours truly, that Elon is terrible. And maybe one of the ways that we don't associate ourselves with him is by not having Teslas, not buying them, right? Which is a very reasonable action to say, I'm not going to have a Tesla. And it's unfortunate that the people in Tesla, who many of them are just, hardworking Americans, are being impacted by that, who run that company. But it makes sense that him doing terrible things will lead people to, I don't want to buy one of his products. So people out there saying that and then some extremists take that to mean we should do crimes, which is wrong.
Anybody got a relative that's a hookup at Ford factory, motorcraft parts? Maybe works at a factory that produces time and chain sets and water pumps or something?
He's saying the people saying the stuff. He said people saying propaganda about me and Tesla should be held
$5,000
finger thingamajig. So that's dangerous because he's talking about rhetoric. You're going to criminalize rhetoric. And he didn't specify that it was provocation. He's just saying people lying. It's really scary. One of the moment from this psycho interview.
But usually when they attack Doge, they never attack any of the specifics. So they'll say what we're doing is somehow unconstitutional or illegal or whatever. We're like, well, which line of the cost savings do you disagree with? And they can't point to any. And we list them all on Doge.gov.
No, we can. Multiple people have. In fact, when the Washington Post did their expose and investigation and found all your fraudulent claims on there, you removed them all overnight. And then you made it harder to figure out what you're talking about when you show these contracts. You made it harder to look them up.
Guys, Doge.gov is... I'm trying to think of a way to connect this to the poo guy. This is to art. The Doge site... Okay, we're getting there. Doge site is to government websites what the poo smear guy is to abstract art, okay? Okay? And it's terrible, is my point. That's my point. It is such a lie. There are so many... I showed you a video of a New York Times journalist breaking down line item by line item, how they're just lying about these numbers and distorting them and misunderstanding things. But he makes this ridiculous claim that no one's citing specifics. Congressman Greg Cesar said, hey, Elon Musk, I'm specifically against closing Social Security offices and phone lines so seniors can't get checks, which is happening. I'm also specifically against cutting funding for cancer research, firing veterans, and firing nuclear safety workers. Hope this helps. And then other people, there were whole threads of this. You have another person saying specifically, we are against Elon Musk and Doge firing.
Everybody's pointed it out.
Thousands of veterans, dismantling life-saving USAID programs around the world, cuts to cancer research and healthcare, slashing rental assistance. Your minimal cost savings are destroying countless lives and livelihoods. That's the other thing.
Yes, not the actors. The actors are still faced punishment, but the real punishment is going to be for people who say bad things about him because the left has no empathy.
They'll go and crush an institutional organization that does crucial work and then brag that that 0.5% of that funding they disagreed with and are happy that we're not spending. Hey, you could have also just cut out that part. You haven't thought of it. You could have not dismantled the entire organization and just got the parts out that you say are bad. Mehdi Hasan saying, how about cuts to school nutrition funding, or mosquito nets to fight malaria, or social security offices that are now closing, or cuts to funding to fight measles in Texas, or the canceling of long-term study into diabetes? Specific enough? Exactly. A ridiculous straw man of the opposition, as we see again there from Elon Musk. Share your thoughts in the comments. Support the show. Get the members only bonus show by clicking that join button below.
All right, one more. This video it come out. I really have been wanting to watch this, but I haven't seen it yet. So here we go. We're watching it together for the first time.
This is
about you're paying higher utilities to subsidize data centers. The companies aren't footing the bill for these data centers. You are on your utility bill.
pressure in the kitchen. This is where I fill up water for storage. Those are the things we have to fill up to flush the toilets.
So you can see the sediment from the data center. Wow, and that's just from the water coming out of your faucet?
Yeah, and this is what's in all the pipes.
Just the well itself is probably $20,000, and that's not counting any of the
all the replacement of the fixtures and faucets, the toilets, and the lines that come underneath the house. It's overwhelming because you really feel like you are up against this
It's from a More Perfect Union YouTube channel, by the way.
huge wall that you can't penetrate. There's nothing that you can do, and they don't care.
I'm here in Mansfield, Georgia, driving by Meta's new 2 million square foot data center facility. Facilities like this are being used to power things like ChatGPT and other AI tools that are becoming integrated into our daily life.
Data centers going to be a very hot item.
This entire supercomputer is built to power Grok. We see data centers as the most exciting asset class.
Meta is building a 2 gigawatt plus data center that is so large it would cover a significant part of Manhattan.
But data centers come with big costs, from light and noise pollution to the environmental impacts to the potential rising costs of energy bills. These facilities put extraordinary demand on the power grid and require entirely new infrastructure.
Oh my God. They should be responsible for that, not us.
Search the internet for profits that Meta has made, Amazon, Microsoft. They can afford to pay for their own generation.
Yes, they absolutely should be. The wealthiest companies in the world are who are investing in this. Why are we subsidizing? We should make them upgrade our entire fucking infrastructure if they want power. The problem is, if one state says you have to pay for your own power, the other state says we won't make you pay taxes for 50 years and we'll pay for all the infrastructure. They're going to that state, and that's jobs for those states. So these lawmakers make them these crazy fucking sweetheart deals to get them to stay there and build there.
Came to Georgia to ask 2 questions. What's the true cost of the AI revolution, and who should be paying for it? Your house is here, and the data center is right there.
It's less than 400 yards.
Beverly and Jeff Morris bought their home an hour's drive from downtown Atlanta in 2016, but their roots in the community run much deeper.
Being in the country has always just been my peace and my therapy. When we found this place, we decided that this was it. It was perfect.
I was actually raised probably 5 miles from here. Just felt like coming home.
The data center that's now the Morris' next door neighbor happens to be owned by Meta, the company you know for Facebook and Instagram, but has also been breaking into artificial intelligence. They started construction on this data center campus in 2018.
Definitely changed everything. They destroyed the environment, taking down all the trees across the road.
Beautiful pines, beautiful forest.
The light pollution is...
You don't have to have a night light in the house. You can walk around the house at night and see everything. It's that bright.
This is a video of the dust from Facebook where the construction was. What it looks like right now out my front door. The wind blowing in all of this stuff from across the construction, across the road.
This is all from Meta.
Yeah, I was standing on my front porch. I think eventually that affected our well water. We're on a well here, and we started having issues with our well in 2018. I have to replace a hot water heater. I've replaced 2 washing machines and a dishwasher because of the sediment that's coming in.
A lot of what the Morrises are facing is from the polluting effects of this massive construction, but that's only one part of the story. There are serious costs to communities once data centers are operational too. To explain that, we have to back up for a second. I wouldn't blame you if you were asking yourself, what the heck is a data center anyway? Their origins date back to early, clunky supercomputers or mainframes in the 1950s and 60s. And then in the 90s, with the birth of the internet, the modern data center was born as a way for internet providers to connect businesses and the world to the web. In the 2010s, data centers became larger as they became critical to new cloud storage.
To the cloud. With the cloud, we share a sync photo that allows us to all work on the same documents.
Everything from your pet photos to entire workplaces to files for video streaming, like this video you're watching right now. We're in the cloud. Today, we are in the midst of a tectonic shift in processing needs, as large as the birth of the internet, artificial intelligence.
A transformational moment for data center demand.
But the thing is, AI processing demands are much larger. One report showed that a Google search using a ChatGPT-like AI feature used 30 times as much power as a normal Google search. In the next 3 years, data center use of electricity is expected to double or even triple. And the state of Georgia has the fastest data center growth in the entire country.
The 2 biggest reasons data centers come come to Georgia are that electricity rates for industrials, which is the class that they're in, are 42% below the national average. And the second biggest one are data center tax breaks. They received over $180 million in tax breaks last year.
The week we were in Georgia, a showdown was happening at the state capitol over 2 bills tied to data centers.
Senator Hofstadter had proposed 2 different bills, and one of them was SB 34, which was the data centers bill, to move the burden of the operational costs of data centers from ratepayers to the data centers themselves.
Rate bearers. That's you paying your bill.
And what is SB 94?
That is the Consumer Utility Council, a legal advocate for ratepayers and small businesses.
Bills like these are the result of mounting residential anger and the work of dedicated advocates across the state, like Diana Dietz, who lives 50 miles away from the Capitol in Fayette County.
This is a huge industrial project plopped in a residential area. This was the original plan, 122 acres. And then the Development Authority got involved.
In 2022, officials in Fayette County voted to annex and rezone an additional 412 acres for a data center campus. Fayetteville City Council voted 5-0 in favor of the development, despite passionate opposition from some local residents. The site was then purchased by QTS, which is owned by Blackstone, for $153.8 million.
These speculators, investors, are secretly buying up land right next to homeowners. And it was all done so that when we all went to the 4 public hearings between the county and the city, it was a done deal. This is the one that's currently under construction, and this is where Gene and Joe are.
Gene and Joe Marshall live on the edge of Fayetteville in Fayette County on an 8-acre property.
This driveway is almost the line for Fayette County versus Fayetteville, where QTS's property is located. We have absolutely no say in anything that happens over here.
Despite their vocal opposition to the project, living next to construction on all sides of their home has become their daily reality for the last 2 years.
They do nightly tours over here, and in the back part at the other building, the lights are shining, and there is noise. 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, so they don't stop. Oh yeah, sure.
We went to visit Nikki Vanderslice, who heads up the Fayette County Economic Development Authority, a non-governmental agency that played a central role in the marketing of the land for data center development.
For residents who live alongside these data centers, life has become very difficult. What do you say to them?
Well, I say to them that there's a couple of things. One, we were very transparent. The Development Authority was very open about attracting a data center, and there wasn't any resistance until it came to their property specifically.
Vanderslice says data centers are good for the community, even if some don't see the benefits yet.
In 2021, that property paid $36,000 in property taxes total. In 2024, on raw land, it paid $1.13 million in property taxes. That contributed $760,000 to our local Board of Education. I'm apologetic that they're being impacted, but I also see the benefits of what the companies are doing and how they're improving our economy. And so there's the balance that when you have 200 out of 120,000 people, that you have to balance what's the highest and best use for the whole of the community.
It's just the height of selfishness to imagine that one county's benefit to the huge detriment of 158 other counties in Georgia that now have to pay higher electric bills is okay. It's not okay.
So they get this huge benefit, but everybody else in the entire state pays a higher electric bill to put this in.
It drives inequity. It's very immoral, too.
That's Patty Durand, and as you can tell, she does not agree with Nikki Vanderslice. Patty is a longtime consumer advocate and expert on energy policy who's been raising the alarm about rising costs of electricity related to data centers.
Are data centers going to drive up energy costs for residents across the state?
On May 1st, Georgia Power residential ratepayers experienced a 24% rate increase. Just since 2023, Georgia Power has raised rates 6 times.
And related to those rate hikes, remember those
6 times since 2023.
2 bills we mentioned earlier? We were with Patty as she was watching a live feed of the Senate floor.
Today is crossover day, which means any bill that does not get through one side of the House or the Senate to the other side is dead for the year. And right now, Senate Bill 34 is not on that list.
By later that evening, both bills had failed to get a vote. As disappointed and angry as Patty was, she wasn't too surprised.
Georgia legislators are getting soaked with money from Georgia Power.
Is that a conflict of interest?
Absolutely.
Georgia Power pays all their campaigns.
It is clearly corrupting. This is the highest paid utility CEOs in the country. Why is the poorest region in the country paying the most to our CEOs?
$23 million. $33 million.
It's ridiculous how much money they make.
Our time in Georgia is crucial to understanding what's happening all across the country because the growth of data centers is not slowing down anytime soon. And tech billionaires have already been complaining about the amount of red tape involved in powering this growth.
And Trump wants to pull down the red tape.
Energy permitted is like a very heavily regulated government function. And if you're talking about building large new power plants or large build outs, that is just a heavily regulated thing.
The regulatory body in question is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, also known as FERC, an independent and historically nonpartisan agency that regulates interstate transmission of electricity, natural gas, and oil. But just last month, President Trump signed an executive order placing FERC under White House control. And he's been boasting about his ability to fast-track new projects.
We're going to get very rapid approvals in the United States. Like with the AI plans, under emergency declaration, I can get the approvals done myself without having to go through years of waiting.
With this alliance between the federal government, Silicon Valley, and utility monopolies, who's looking out for regular Americans like the Morrises?
During the peak season, our electric bill.
I understand it's got to go somewhere, right? I don't think that the wealthiest companies in the world should be subsidized by regular fucking power recipients. You paying your power bill to fund it.
Was maybe $250. Yeah, and now it's probably $400.
Your electricity bill has doubled. Wow, it's been a struggle.
Every month it's a struggle. Jeff would like to retire, but he keeps working because we have to pay our bills.
Do you think that people should have to pay more because of data centers?
No, absolutely not. They should pay for that difference. It's hard enough for a regular person to pay their electric bill as it is. I don't think that's right at all.
We reached out to the big tech companies, including Meta and QTS, asking for an interview and a tour of their facilities, but both declined to participate in the story.
Duran says despite the bill's failure, the fight will go on. A number of other states have similar bills up for debate right now.
The reason I think other states should pass it, whether we do or not, is that data centers
Sure, they make enough money, they ought to be subsidizing you.
Could possibly come to their state next. There needs to be legislation to protect them because by all accounts, data center growth is going to be very fast.
Before you go, please support our work by liking this video and subscribing to our channel.
There you go. That's from A More Perfect Union. Check them out on YouTube. They do pretty good work. I watch a bunch of their videos. All right, guys. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to go sell an arm and a leg to figure out how to finance car parts. You guys have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. Support the stream at Colbert.fund. And have a good night. If you're going to fuck up, make sure you're friends with Trump. Okay?
To see this particular show, you don't have the forking balls to call out the people on this planet by name and tell them exactly who they are and tell them the rest of the world who they are. You don't have the forking balls. You don't have the balls.
Oh, somebody remind me on the next show to cover how they couldn't even find anybody to greet J.D. Vance's wife. They fucking hate him so much.
You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them beds.
Remember where we parked, guys.
You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. And they say that I'm a lunatic. Well, listen, bitch, I came equipped with a quick wit and a 6-inch.
They went door to door. We'll talk about it on the next show, but they went door to door to try to find people in Greenland to greet his wife and him. And they're like, no thanks. Bye.
Fucking meat hammers like fool in a thong. He's strapped to the shaft, eating his chest like he's King Kong. Starving for attention, I'm gonna make your gut burst. I'll be your huckleberry, I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the beds, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them beds, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. I used to find clues too when I was high on shrooms. I found myself.
Good night, guys.
in Jason Q's bedroom, open his closet.